Good afternoon and welcome. Season 2, Episode 3, Cattle Drive Live, hosted by myself, Brett Carter. And who are you? You that guy that, man, you got so famous now. I don't know whether to just call you by your name or call you about just that guy that flies around judging shows.
What? Yeah. How's the weather down there, Brett?
Hey, weather, tentatively, it's good. They're saying that there's Arctic blast coming our way. So, hey, we'll just deal with it as we go.
It's like springtime up here today. It was beautiful. Unbelievable.
Really? It's the same way here. It was actually a little warm, but they say by Wednesday we get sleet, snow, like some minus 20-degree weather stuff. So, who knows? We're not. Hey, after last year, we're just kind of whatever comes at us, we're ready. So, anyway, hey, pretty big weekend this last weekend. The Fort Worth Open show's been going on. I was actually there. We took some cattle and participated. And I'm going to tell you, Fort Worth was alive and well. People everywhere, lots of cattle. I don't say they were packed, but the barns were full and the excitement was in the air to be in Cowtown.
Yeah. Did you get some of that Mexican food there in that restaurant in that by the show ring?
Yeah, that's about the only thing to eat at, in my opinion. So, yeah. I can tell you, I had a guy ask me the other day that wasn't from the South, and he said, "Do you guys like Mexican food down there, really?" I said, "Oh, shoot. Do we like Mexican food? That's the only time I'm not mad." Yeah, I've never been mad when I eat Mexican food, So
it's good stuff.
Hey, what about you? Really, Texas major show season is right around the corner, and the big one is approaching. I think they're starting to move in there now. Over 2,000 steers will file in the barns in Fort Worth.
Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, I think so. Starts on Thursday. We'll get into that in a little bit with our guest, but man, I can tell you right now, if you're in the livestock world and this week doesn't get you excited, you need to check your pulse. So,
yeah,
some family's going to walk out of there with a big old fat check, Jack. It's life-changing dollars in Cowtown. So, hey, what about you? You were on the road. I was picking at you a little bit for being a Joe Judger, but you were on the road this week.
Kendall Brimmer and I went out to Springfield, Ohio, and they call it the Clark County Cattle Battle, but it is one of the stops on the Ohio Best tour out there. And I tell you what, it'd been a long time since I'd been out to one of those Ohio Best shows, but boy, that deal's rolling. It was the number of kids. I think they showed over 700 head of steers and heifers. We got done with the heifers that first night on Saturday at 5:30, and they showed showmanship till 12:30 that night. 350 kids.
Smokers.
Unbelievable. And then showed steers all day on Sunday. Yeah, I'll tell you that them guys out there with that Ohio Best program, they have got in terms of it's a point system deal, and there's a Stockman's part of it where they have different fitting contests and quizzes and bunches of stuff. But boy, they have got the junior excitement, and they got it coming out in droves.
Right. So you said you and Kendall judge that. It's without question. If you know Kendall, he did everything right. What about yourself? Did you feel like you left out of there with your hat? I'm just asking because
I did it right and he was wrong. But if you ask him, it'd be the other way around. But,
I've never known him to be wrong.
We dang sure didn't agree. We agreed on some stuff, but we dang sure didn't agree on all of it.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's what makes it fun. It fun. Hey, a few little sell reports came in this week. Is it starting to maybe get bull season in your country?
They're getting rolling. I was actually at Blaine Nagel's there, Nagel Cattle Company, Blaine and Landon Nagel there main breeders from Springfield, South Dakota. Today, they sell 58 bulls, average 63.77. Sell 28 bred heifers for an average of 47.90. That brings the total to 86 lots that average 58.04. And that sale report comes from the sales manager, Rockin' K Productions, Kent Jakey there.
Gotcha.
So,
Good deal.
Yeah, it was a good crowd, and it went very, very well.
Right.
Then
So how long before bull season fires up there? Has there been any other sales, or are we just on the cusp of it?
Yeah, we had last week. We had Edgar Brothers Angus here in South Dakota. They sell 165 bulls, yearling bulls for $72.45. They sell 15 open heifers for $24.53. They sell 385 commercial open heifers for $11.69 and 173 commercial bred heifers for $17.93. Congratulations to the whole Edgar crew up there. They had them a wing dinger high seller of 130,000 on the front end of that deal. And then Mona and Angus from south of White Lake, South Dakota here. They sell 116 yearling bulls for $10,435 and 55 fall bulls, Angus bulls, for $7,681.
Boy, that's getting after it right
They are
there. Early in
bull
the
sales
season.
are off
They're
to a
holding
good
strong.
start, and they appear that like they're going to be good this time.
Right. Yeah. I would like to encourage those listening or those following us here to, if you're bull shopping, go click on cci.live and flip through there. Those guys do a heck of a good job of getting sales in front of you. And there are multiple breeds. There's people that are behind that outfit that you can pick the phone up and call, that'll represent those cattle. So those of you that's shopping for something, check out cci.live from a live auction standpoint, or our friends at Show Circuit Online Sales. Spring sale is just right around the corner for all things seed stock. So we are anticipating some more sale reports as they come. But Corey, tonight has been anticipated by myself for a little time now. Two guys, as Paige dubbed on Facebook earlier, Texas legends. And I do believe both of these guys are Texas legends in their own right. Shane Meier and Dwight Callis are with us tonight. There's Shane and there's Mr. Dwight. Gentlemen.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Hey, it's a pleasure of ours at Cattle Drive Live to have you with us tonight. And take just a minute, Dwight and Shane. Dwight, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do today, and then Shane, follow up, do the same thing, please.
Okay.
Well, Dwight Callis, and of course, I served as a county extension agent here in Texas for 34 years, about 3 different counties. And my last stint was here in Fort Bend County. And so I always say that you'll probably know my son, Brandon Callis, and Brandon was up at Glen. So 3 years before I retired, I decided that I was gonna raise some club calves, Shane. And so I bought a set of cows and started a little bit there. And anyway, we started that, built a barn here at the house. And about that time, Brandon Callis decided he was going to go to Oklahoma. So and he planned for the barn, how to build it. But that turned into being not only cattle, sell lambs and goats, and we actually raise lambs. We're lambing right now, probably as we speak. I'm glad I got some help here. We're raising a few lambs and sell some goats, and we're kind of a one-stop shop, I guess, around here, if you will. So we just call it DLC Livestock, and everybody wants to know what's the L part. That's my wife, Lorena. I call her Silent Partner, but he really worked with a lot of young people, and so that's still my passion, is doing that. We have a lot of those kids that are out there that some of that individual help, and we try to get them off and give them that education much working with their particular projects, and then they move on. And when they get big time, they go to Shane. And, be in that big motor competition, but we do it. We enjoy it. I've got just a tremendous amount of customers, and my focus is more towards the county shows. I guess we do have some kids go to the majors, but the most kids that I have are really those kids that are going to a county show. So that's what I'm doing now. It is way busy. We seem like we have kids here. With school's back in now, my day usually, my second day starts at about 4:30 and we'll end up about 9 o'clock or so at night when we get out of the barn with them and kind of giving them some individual assistance with their particular project. So we'll sell them and we'll help them feed them. We always told them we do not keep them here. You'll have to take them home and take them there, but we'll show you how to do that deal. So that's what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it. My wife always thought when I retired that I'd be at home. So she's still working, and I often tell her I am at home. I'm just out in the barn right now, but I am at home. So, but we enjoy what we're doing. Sure do.
Awesome. Good deal. Shane, what about yourself? Tell us a little bit about, other than the fact that you're deceivingly slow, tell us a little something about yourself.
Well, Brett and Corey, thank you for having us, and Dwight, a pleasure to be on here with you. My name is Shane Meier. I'm from Stonewall, Texas. That's where I grew up. That was our hometown. I got two younger brothers. A lot of you may know Lydell. He lives out in Tennessee with his family. And then I have a younger brother, Tyson, and he lives around the Fort Worth area. I've got a wife, Tanya, and two boys, Mills and Mason. They're both at Texas Tech, and actually that's where I'm at tonight is in Lubbock, Texas. But I'll be back home tomorrow. I've been around the show industry, the cattle industry my entire life. Kind of the neat thing that how we got to grow up. My dad worked for the President of the United States, Lyndon Johnson, and he passed away, well, I guess about when I was born, but Lady Bird and them, Lyndon, a lot of people don't know this. He's the one who got the state and national parks rolling. And so they turned that into a national park. And so my dad had a government job, but he was a ranch foreman. And it was great to be raised, to go there. We raised, had a huge cow-calf operation at the time, registered Hereford cattle. We ran that Hereford outfit. We had a few of our own, and then we had a guy that was out of Odessa that he had a lot of land around us in that area, and then we ran his Hereford cattle. So we got to grow up ranching and doing that thing. So we learned a lot of on-hands things, and that's where Lydell and I learned how to trim feet, clip, AI, preg check, calve cows out, ride horses, get bucked off of horses, you name it. So we had a good time. And then from there, I was fortunate enough where really I got I had a really good county agent, a really good ag teacher, Dury Menzies, and then Albert Usner. He's passed away. But I was so fortunate. I learned how to judge livestock at an early age. And I'll never forget the first set of oral reasons I ever gave him. Dwight can and testify to this. That's probably most kids' worst fear is giving an oral set of reasons. And I gave him when I was in third grade. And Dury Menzies, he pushed me really hard, and Lydell and I both. And we were going to contest as juniors, and he was entering us up in the senior contest and making us do everything we did. So I judged from third grade all the way to my senior year. Was on state winning livestock teams in 4-H and FFA, got to go to national contest through 4-H and FFA. From there, that took me on to college. Went to South Plains for a little bit. Then I started working around and freelancing and working for people, and then started Meier Show Cattle. At one time, we had a pretty large group of cows. Now we just maintain a small herd, but buy and sell. I trim a lot of feed, do a lot of custom service. And then my wife, kind of the brains of the operation, she's got a master's degree in education and has taught elementary school for many years. We formed the Battle of Cattle. We've done that for over a decade. And then most recently, we put on a year ago, we'd be knee deep in Abilene, Texas at the Patriot Junior Market Steer Show, the replacement for Fort Worth. We did that. We had over 1,700 head of steers show up for that thing. And then we put on the first ever show steer junior nationals there in Abilene that summer. But, done a lot of things. We've been very blessed. And we've got to meet a lot of people and go a lot of places. I'd have never thought that. You never know where the world's going to take you, but very fortunate to be here.
Right. And that was something that Corey and I talked about when we started to maybe try to tackle Texas. Texas is an animal in itself, and it's a beast, and it's hard to break down. And guys that are listening, and guys, I'm going to tell both of you, and as y'all know, we're not going to do this in the next 25 minutes. There's no way to break Texas down. What I hope to capture, I know what Corey and I both hope to capture, is Dwight, you touched on the fact that you were with Texas Education for 38 years. Shane, you've worked for some of the most prominent seed stock outfits, some guys in this business. I mean, just today, I didn't really know that you had ever worked for Mark Kopis. I know you've been there. I mean, the list goes on and on of your ties in Texas to winners, to the Texas majors. So I don't want to just say that Mr. Dwight is just a county fair man and Shane is a major show guy, because you both will intertwine in this next conversation so well with each other. But just feel free to guide Corey and I through some. I mean, we got a list of questions, but if you feel like you got something, let's do it. I want to try to capture the essence of Texas in the next 25 minutes somehow. So good luck to both of you.
Got a tall task.
Yeah, he looks
Corey, drive in these things.
So it was probably the mid 90s, early 90s when the slick-shear deal kind of came to be.
Well, I can jump in on that one, Corey. It was actually 92. I graduated high school in 1992, and I'll never forget it. I was walking down Senior Hall. It was a senior year. We just got done wrapping up all the major shows, and my ag teacher, Mr. Usner, comes walking right down Senior Hall through all these kids. He goes, "Meier, you're never going to believe this." And I go, "What's that?" He goes, "They're slick-shear in Houston." I said, "Mr. Usner, you've lost your mind." And of course, at that time, and Dwight can testify to this, we didn't have a clue what we were about to embark in. And that was 92. And also there was a lot of changes from 92 to 93. They also started putting the cap on Houston. And then, because take you back a little bit of heritage and history about the Texas majors, but prior to 92, 91, 90, in the 80s, Houston, Texas was the granddaddy of them all. I mean, those breed steers were bringing $50,000, $60,000, and you got it for them. You got all the money. And
holy smokes,
they had fans. When you went to the Astro Hall there, and it was a big deal. If you could go to the Dome, that was like winning the lottery. And so you could twine those calves, you could paint them, and that was a big deal. Whoever won their breed, respected breeds or reserves, and I think back then 14, 16 breeds, I think is what we had. You could just go from aisle to aisle and watch those guys get those cattle ready, and it was a big deal. You could have fans, as many as you wanted per calf, generators and everything. And I think the truth be known, and Dwight probably knows a little bit better about this, being a county ag teacher at the time, or county agent. I think the fire marshals at the Houston Livestock Show probably had more of a say in of the slick shear than anybody else. And I think Houston would testify to that. I mean, most people don't know that. And so to back up, there's a lot to talk about, and I'll let Dwight jump in. But so what we know Fort Worth is as of today, in the 80s, 90s, that was not how Fort Worth was. Fort Worth was kind of the afterthought in the junior market department as far as the steers and all the other species, because San Antonio and Houston were so large, and that's where so much money. So once we slick sheared in 93 was the first year of slick shearing. San Antonio, Houston did it. And so then San Antonio did it. The state fair hung on the hair for a while in the fall. San Angelo jumped in, and then Austin jumped in. And so that made Fort Worth bigger. But, as time went on, then Fort Worth just kept getting bigger and bigger, and the money got better.
So Dwight, in 1992, as an educator from the county level, what was that like for you, knowing we got two guys in front of us, Corey, that they've never ran from work, and work ethic on both of these guys' part is huge. They probably both never had the best calf, but both of these guys, as you know, were outwork you. How was that like in 92, 93 for you, Dwight?
Speaking about that, Shane, I actually had the opportunity to speak at the steer auction committee in Houston that year that the slick shearing was going to evolve and coming in there. And what had happened was actually San Antonio. Everybody knew that San Antonio was going to go first. So Houston was kind of forced into that deal. They really didn't want to. And I actually went to the steer auction committee to speak on leadership and what it meant to be volunteers for the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. But as I got there, of course, I had to go behind Mike Serby, and I didn't think that was very, very good. That's what y'all got me doing this for. But one of the guys is just chairman at that time, owns a Luther's restaurant, or did Luther's restaurant there in Houston, and he came to me and he said, "Hey, we want you to speak on this slick shearing deal. We don't know anything about it. We're just here to collect the funds. So can you tell us a little bit about it?" And so the pros and cons. And so I tried to do that. Now, us boys down here in deep South Texas, we don't grow much hair anyway on those cattle. So we kind of saw it. I think that group kind of saw it as an advantage, maybe, or having an advantage, which it really wasn't, because we couldn't grow the hair that those guys could get, I'd say, north of I-35. So I think we had a component of those that was kind of, looking forward to having it. But that's what I kind of talked about doing the steer auction committee. And, those boys up north that can grow all that hair, sure, they're going to want it in there. And so when I got through, of course, they told me, they said, "You need to run for politics because you just sit in the middle of that fence." Well, that's the way I felt about it. I love to see cattle in hair. But also, again, I know it's going to be a lot easier on us to be maybe able to go in there and compete with some of those guys when we could take that hair off. But at the end of the day, with those kids, it still takes work, to get them there. So, and I think that's the big thing that a lot of people started overlooking at that point in time. But it was kind of different. Everybody was, we had, I would say it was like a 50-50 around here. Those people that wanted to see it come to fruition, and those people that they still wanted to keep that hair on those cattle. But down at Houston, it was big money. Like Shane said, it was big money, back in those days for those cattle. So, and it was the big one because everybody wanted to go to the dome. You always had that bragging right of how many steers, you got to the dome that one year down at Houston. And I guess I told I was in Austin County for a while, and Shane probably remembers, there was a lot of guys over there that was really helpful with me. Kenny Herzog.
Oh, yeah.
Point in time. And of course I had Bobby Maddox over there in that county, and Rocky Ellis, had all those guys over there. So I made them work. And but we could sit back and say that particular year, we took 5 kids to the dome down there. And so, it makes you feel good to go there, but it was highly competitive. And, the slick cattle, that was with hair. The next year when we started slicking them, those guys still, the good feeders, guess what? They still showed up at the top of the deal. So It's just hard work. You got to have it.
Did it take them guys that were buying them? Did it take a while to adjust? That deal was just, when I left Texas, it was just kind of coming into effect. Did it take a while for that adjustment to figure out what you needed to look for in a little one? Or I remember some guys saying they needed to be a little straighter legged, like not locked up, but that straighter legged ones look better than you get too much set to their leg. They look kind of,
I think the biggest thing was, so we were no different than you guys up north up till 92. We were selecting for hair, and black ones were, black cattle were in. It was rarity to see. We had Lemmies and Charolais and that, but Charolais were not what they are now. And you didn't see a whole lot of the Lemmies were actually Lemmy cattle. I mean, they were cattle that were, you know, the Stumans and all them that raised limousine cattle. They were legit limousine steers. So it was a big transition. I think it took, I don't know how many years, but the Charolais and the color deal, it took it to a different level. And the Charolais breed being one of the breeds that can add you some bone and add you some muscle and add you some rib, I think people were using those cattle quite frequently and getting caught up there. And you know, as far as judging, I've judged both of them. And Dwight, I'm sure, has too, and he's judged every one of them down in Texas for sure. It's really hard when we slick these cattle. They've got to be built really good. And so there was some fine lines. And at first, I think, for me personally, which I was a youngster, I was fresh out of high school. For me, I thought, and I don't know if this is going to make the cattle better, but I think over time it has. We've transitioned very well. You take people like Brandon Horn. I mean, he's probably revolutionized the game as far as the slick shear world has gone. But getting those Charolais cattle and figuring out how to breed them and stuff, and that selection process and what it was going to take, and different bulls to use versus back in the early 90s, there was select few bulls that worked for the hair deal, and they weren't going to work. They were going to be too tall and elevated off the ground to make the slick shear deal work. So we had to kind of and get some more cow power in them and downsize and get them a little more moderates where they balanced up good. So
how did that them shows going, Slick? Did it affect the numbers? Did kids back off showing then, Dwight, or
Corey, I didn't see that. I can say that they didn't back off showing. I think here, kind of in the area that I'm located, if you will, I think we kind of picked up some kids in that area, just knowing that we're going slick. You have to remember, we've got a lot of American cattle around here, around this area too, and so I think that component picked up. And I think the mindset of a lot of those kids when we went slick down here, that they were going to be able to compete and a little better versus hair, because maybe they didn't have that person that could dial that one in really good for them. But at the end of the day, they realized and learned you still got to have that work behind it. And even with that slick shearing, it's still an art to getting those guys. Hide has got to be good. You got to get them slick. If you can make one just look like you took a weed eater and slicked him too, if you're not watching what you're doing. So at the end of the day, it's still maintain a lot of work to get it done. But back on your question before, I think it did take us a little time. I think as breeders to kind of get that deal sorted out on what we really needed to concentrate on, to how we needed our cattle to look for that slick deal. Because like Shane said, you pick up a little bit more in terms of the structure problems when you've got it all off. I mean, it's right there at you, and you can see that. And I think we have to fire cattle up with just a little bit more and still try to maintain some structural integrity when we did that. So it did take a little time to get that deal sorted out as a breeder.
Good. So Texas is unique as well in terms of validation. Let's start getting into some meat and potatoes of a Texas show season. Every steer that's going to be shown at a Texas major, and I think even within those counties, they're validated as well. Talk to us real quick about that, Dwight, about that process of specific deadlines that pertain to getting to show a calf.
Every steer for a Texas major has to be validated during the month of June, and from June 1st to no later than June 30th. And so with that, we've got validation committees that are set up in each county in the state of Texas that will go in and they'll validate those cattle. They get to set their particular validation date for that county, but they'll set that date, and they'll go ahead and go through a validation process. Now they have to, jump back to about April, I think it is, when they all tag orders are due in. So everybody in the state of Texas that's going to have a steer has to turn in a tag order sometime there in April to ensure that they're going to have a tag to validate that particular calf in June. And so on the steer side, of course, at those validations now, we're doing heifers too. on a spring validation, but also we have one for fall validation for heifers. But steers is that little window of the month of June is when they get validated for the Texas major.
Oh, wow, gotcha. So if those things are not validated by June 30th, you don't get to go to a Texas major. They don't care what you found on July 1st.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's impressive. So from validation time, I mean, first major for Texas, Shane, take us into this Texas major scene from June into State Fair of Texas, probably the very first one.
Yeah, State Fair of Texas.
The year of Texas majors.
You validate them all in June. Make sure all that's done. But your first major show that you have an opportunity to go to with the steers is the State Fair of Texas, and that usually happens the first part of October. And that is a slick-sheared show. Probably of our Texas majors, it's not near as large as Fort Worth, San Antonio, or Houston, but it's highly competitive. And that usually takes a little older type steer, more spring-born age calves, or even, January, February, December age calves. And, they have British, American exotics and 2 divisions in each breed. And then they usually sell, I think, the top 2 or 3 in the British and Americans and the top 4 or 5 in the exotics. But very competitive. And from there, we got a little bit of a break. And then, the next big Texas major will start in Fort Worth. And of course, we're on the eve of Fort Worth. A lot of people probably are in line right now. And what Fort Worth has become, as far as, it's our only haired major. And let me back up just a second. One that, and I'm bleed red and white all the time.
How do you miss that, Shane?
And heck, my brother judged it this year. We showed it for the Odessa Hereford show. And that takes a Hereford steer, a pole or a horn, and that's usually right around the 1st of January. I guess that would be your actual next major, and you have to be state validated for it. People don't know this. Years ago, that used to be Hereford and Angus cattle used to show out there. I don't remember the exact timeline. And then it used to just be horned Herefords. And when I grew up in Texas and we ran horned Hereford cattle, if you had a pole Hereford on your place, you're almost considered a criminal. Of course, now, the poles and horns are, they show and it's all good. But back then it was, especially in the state of Texas, so Odessa just had horned Herefords, and they brought in the pole Herefords. And so Odessa's a huge Hereford show. If you want to go sit in and watch probably 150 of the best quality Herefords walk through a ring, go to Odessa, Texas, and watch that show. That is some kind of impressive thing. And it's pretty neat just to see that breed of cattle there. It's really neat. And then we'll jump into Fort Worth after that. And, most of these guys are getting in line to set up their tack and get their cattle in there for Fort Worth. And since the early 90s, what Fort Worth has become is kind of has set the standard of, you go up north or talk to anybody, oh man, well, how about Fort Worth? That's kind of the one that, a lot of people say that's the one they'd want to win or win a breed. And so we have the Angus, the Hereford, the pole Hereford, Shorthorns, and they run all the ABCs together, and then all the exotics are all together, and they have 12 big classes of that. And, us having that Patriot show last year when Fort Worth didn't happen, you're looking at the magnitude of this is, those crossbred classes are anywhere from, we had 72 to 82 head of cattle in one particular class. And so we get them narrowed down to the top 10. And so that is huge. Your British cattle, you're probably looking at about 40 to 50 head in those classes, and probably the Americans same way. Then after that, you get down at Fort Worth. If you got San Angelo cattle's next, you will get back from Fort Worth on Friday or Saturday. And then Monday, you'll hook up the trailer and they'll go to San Angelo. I think then we got about a week off. Then they go to San Antonio. Then maybe a week or 2 off. And then we go to Houston. And then Austin, Texas is right after Houston. So, having 2 boys go through the system and we're graduated, I will say, and Dwight can testify to this, our hotel bill on our credit card is a lot less now than it used to be, because we'd have about 3 months. And when we get at the end of every month, I'm like, oh, those hotels were expensive, but it was worth it. It's worth its weight in gold doing it. I wouldn't have traded for anything. And and we always had a good time. And through all this that I'm talking about, there's 1,000,001 county shows between all these shows.
That's what I was just going to ask, Dwight. How do them county shows then kind of run? What months do they run in there? And then I tell you the other question I had: are most of them slick shear, or is like last, which it's been a long time ago, Montgomery County? They at one time they were still hair. Are they still hair?
No, they're slick now.
They're slick now.
Mm-hmm. But most of those county shows, if the ones that I've had the opportunity to sort, again, if you're north of, I say 35, those shows that are in January, around in that time of the year, I think we even got some that, usually January 1st in there. I know it's a couple of those. Man, I had great to do Randall County. Those counties up in there, they are going to be in hair because, they're more the premium type shows too. You can show there and you can have the champion steer at one of those shows and sell the premium, I guess, sell the ribbon, and then you can still take that steer to Fort Worth and you can show there. So of course they're going to be in hair, but then once we get past March, I guess it is, or after that January deal, when we started in San Antonio, those county shows around this area, they're going to be slick. Most of them. I think the only county show we have in this area is still hair is Brazoria County, which is in September, just about 50 miles south of me here. They still have hair, and they showing hair there in September. But for the most part, most of them now are slick. Like I said, if we get past that January time down here in Texas.
Gotcha.
I'll never
Talk
forget
about the financial side of those. Yeah, go ahead, Corey.
Well, I'll never forget. I was brought up Montgomery County there. I went down to that show one time, and when they were hair cattle, and went down there to clip some for that county fair, and I drove through that town right there by that county fairgrounds, and I called Mark Kopus up and I said, "Hey, did you know there's a town down here? The name of it's Cut and Shoot."
Yeah.
He said, yeah, back in the cowboy days, if you made it through that town at night and didn't get cut or shot, you're lucky, which I to this day don't know if they're pulling my leg, because they pulled my leg more than shot me straight most of the time.
No, Corey, that's a true fact, Corey. That's a true
It
fact.
Is?
Back then. I don't think it's that way now, but
yeah. You put in the town right there on the green shine, Cut and Shoot, Texas.
Yeah, it's still there. It's still there.
Oh my! Hey, so talk about the county, and the Texas majors are known. Everybody talks about Fort Worth, and that steer. That family's going to walk out of there $250,000, $200,000, $300,000. That family, I mean, they sell them 10 deep. Talk about that real quick, Shane, and just how big the money side of it is at those majors. And Dwight, fill in there. You guys both talk about, there's some county shows in Texas pay $100,000 to win. Real briefly, Dwight, today I talked to Brandon, and Brandon told me a story that he had never showed at the State Fair of Texas. And I said, well, what?
No.
He said, no, Brad. He said, that was our county fair. And he said, I could go try to win 4 different species at my county that would pay $7,000, $8,000 a whack, or I could go fight somebody over $15,000, $18,000 at the state fair. He said, Brad, the county level at Texas will match a lot of state fairs in the Midwest. So you guys collaborate about and talk about Houston, talk about what those kids get at each one of those, and class winners and 10th place steers, and talk about
I'll let Dwight follow up, but I'll just quickly about Fort Worth and them selling the top 10 and the competition. And you guys, we all know it, and probably most people listening, the competition just gets tougher and tougher every year. I told somebody this probably 20 plus years ago when I was probably selling about 150 head of club calves a year. I literally, when one would come through our barn that we sold or whatever, and we could clip, I could tell somebody, yeah, I want to be in the top 10. That's a class winner type calf, or that's a breed champion type calf. I tell them now, you better have one that you think can win the class, and you might get in the top 10. That's how competitive it's gotten. And so, you know, when you run, say just in the breed cattle, the Angus, Hereford, Poles, Shorthorns, and Americans, you run 50 head in there, and 50 head of cattle, and the top 10 are going to be eligible for the sale. You know, you better have everything ready to roll, and they better be looking good. And there's no such thing. You know, you hear people say, well, I want to be in an easier breed or easier class. There's no such thing. Yeah, we all know 9, 10, 11. That's probably where, you know, your champion exotic's going to come out of, and potentially the champion of the show. But I'm telling you what, from our kids showed from a lightweight shorthorn to class 10, 11, and a heavyweight breed cattle. And I don't think you're not going to dodge the competition there, but that is pretty phenomenal. And I will say that the support that these shows get from within those communities like Fort Worth, like Houston, like San Antonio, they've been going on for so long, and bring those big business guys in. And these are people that maybe grew up in this and have big businesses, corporations or whatever, that come in there and help support these kids. And, you know, Texas is so blessed. You know, you guys, especially Corey, you've gone all over all the northern states, judged some of them state fairs where the champion might just sell, and they might only bring $10,000, $12,000. Well, we might have a 10th place calf in Fort Worth, Texas, bring $15,000. So the competition is fierce. There's a lot of kids, but then not only that, the potential for scholarships later on down the road with the stock shows, not only Fort Worth, but San Antonio, Houston, the scholarships those kids are eligible for showing is phenomenal. So we've got a ton of support, and it's
when
just
you're breeding at San Antonio Heifer Show, you get a $10,000 scholarship, isn't it?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Wow.
Now
Yep.
that's just one time. You win one
time.
San Antonio scholarship, and that's it. Once you win that, you go somewhere. I mean, you can win, I think, but you don't get the scholarship. It moves to the next person.
Mm-hmm. And I can testify to that. My wife was really good at this. Bless her heart. She's, like I said, the brains of the operation. But our boys were very fortunate. We had some breed champions there at San Antonio, so they were eligible for those scholarships. And they got other scholarships through 4-H and FFA and through the stock shows. And State Fair of Texas is really good. If you can show there for a couple, 3 years and be eligible for their scholarship, not only just getting the premium money for your animals, but also when you get to show there and they know you've been actively involved in those shows. And Mills was very fortunate. He got the Houston scholarship, and I think that one was like $10,000, $15,000. And those are really tough to come by. And so, you know, boy, I tell you what, it's helped us out a bunch. These kids going to college, and a lot of those scholarships have picked up the bills there. And so that's been a godsend for a lot of families out there that get to show.
Awesome. Dwight, talk just a little bit about the county stuff that you have going on and your multiple species there at BLC. Talk about those families when they pull in your driveway. I mean, are those people right out of the gate wanting to go win Houston or San Antonio, or they're thinking, what's the mindset there when they're buying these projects?
Well, we have kind of twofold here, but most of them that come, and I get a lot of, where I'm situated here, it's a lot of inner city kids that are coming out now, and so they all have seen the Houston Livestock Show. You know, that's the one that's closest to them, but they know they have to start out at a school show or either their county show. But they do come in with the mindset that they want to win right off the bat, and you know, I always tell them that it's good to have that dream. We're gonna go in. I want you to treat him like. I want you to treat old Bubba like he's the grand champion all his life, but we know again that we've got a lot of competition at these county fairs. County fairs, these school shows, I mean, even from the standpoint of the draw program of some of these school shows, you still got some competition there. And it's just, I take, for instance, here in our county, Fort Bend County, this was our first year to have an overall champion steer. We'd always had 3 different breeds, 3 breed champions, 3 reserve breed champions. And it's been some years that those cattle, the 3 champions, they would bring, you know, anywhere from 10 to 14,000 each one of them. Well, this year our champion steer at this county level brought 24,000 because we had one overall champion. And everybody thought that steer was going to be the one, the sale item that brought the most. But golly, we had a champion turkey bring 30,000 at our county show. So, and it's still, again, I think this is something that I try to impress on my feeders that come here is that, yes, we're going to try to, my whole deal here is we try to get you there so you can make a sale. You can get in that sale. And I always tell them anything other than that is going to be the gravy of this deal. But also it takes money to do that, to buy these projects and be able to feed them. So, but you don't want them to get outside of their budget. So we've got a lot of math lessons that go on here with a lot of the people that I see. Everybody wants to go and have that big money and that big dollar. But the other thing that they're not realizing, we have a lot of support here in Texas, a lot of support in these counties. But when you get into the urban areas now, I'm seeing that you don't have that old traditional. We've got to do better in terms of ag literacy, is what I say. We've got to get out and kind of rock and get some of these big companies here, because it's almost to the past. Kids have got to take their buyer to that fair. They've got to have somebody there that they know, invite somebody there to that fair to maintain getting that big money up. Our fair was a lot better this year, and I think it had a lot to do with us. At that point in time in September, we thought we had a little relief on COVID, and I think people came out and they supported real well. And I just had a little girl. She just actually won her school show over here at Polo Show. They call I think it's South Springs. She just won her school show, or won the lamb show, and she got like 7,000 for that sheep. And so that's going to be that money that's going to get her back into the program, for the next go around, and also try to put some back for college. But I get the new ones. I still say I send those ones that really want to get out there, and I send them to Shane. They really want to run out there. I'm here for those new kids getting started, getting it going, and try to get that foundation kind of built in them. So, but we have them here. Sometimes on Saturdays, I think Brandon was one that he's really shocked. My wife and daughter first thought when I retired that I wasn't working. They'd always call me and say, "Hey, Dad," my daughter would call and say, "Dad, what are you doing?" I said, "Actually, I'm working." And so that went on for about a year. And I think now they really see Dad is working, because sometimes in my driveways, it's cars lined up from the barn all the way to the road. Us just trying to get stuff ready to go to these shows. But we do have a lot of support, and I don't want to take that away. And I think, Shane, you'd agree, the cap, and he just talked about it with his kids. Everybody kind of fought that cap deal at Houston for a while. And but on the backside of that, we still have a lot of 4-H and FFA members that are receiving those scholarships from that excess money that are coming off of those particular cattle. So, and I don't know, I think a class champion down there, if you win a class down there, what is it, Shane? Is it 6,500, 7,500?
I think so, somewhere around there. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, but so, they still get good money. But again, that county fair, local around there, I always say that's where, other than Fort Worth on a steer deal, that's where you're going to probably pull in more money,
And I'll just add something. Dwight's covered a lot, and I'll just add something to this real quick. And Dwight sees it a lot. I see it a lot, and I'm not an ag teacher or county agent, but I think the young people nowadays are starving. They're drawn to this, especially since the COVID era. This is something that they can still do. They can get out, they can learn. And yeah, no doubt they all want to win, and they see that, and that's a good goal for them. But I think the process of the halter breaking, the feeding, the learning, all this part, and then just the camaraderie and the meeting of the people at these shows, and me personally, my kids, the connections I made through these shows, that's going to go on and follow you all through the years. And I think people are starting to see that more so than ever. We all showed, but we see probably more non-ag people in this. And sometimes us people that are 100% ag, we kind of scratch our heads and go, hey, but that is a good thing. And they want to be involved, and we've got to educate them, because I don't think you have to look too far around society nowadays to see what's going on, but definitely a great program, and it's great in Texas, and I think it's great in a lot of other states, but we're very blessed in the state of Texas to have what we do have.
Very blessed.
Gotcha.
Hey, Shane, has you were saying earlier, it used to be Houston was the most prestigious one. In your opinion, down there, with Fort Worth being the only hair show, has it caught Houston, or is that a tie between those two now? Or
I think it's kind of one of those deals, which girl's prettiest. So Chris Bowman works there at Houston Livestock Show, and him and I are the same age, and we judged against each other in high school growing up, and he's done a remarkable job, and there's been some good guys at San Antonio and Fort Worth, and so I would say this, depend what your emphasis are. They're all prestigious. I'm going to tell you right now, and the people that show within the state, if you won San Antonio, State Fair, Texas, Fort Worth, or Houston, they're all prestigious, and that's a huge deal. And I think the thing that we have, all these kids, they just get to bring one steer to this show, one steer. It's not like they get to bring a couple. They get one shot at that, and they've got to compete against approximately 2,000 head of other exhibitors. And so you got one shot at it. So to get around and all the stars line up and nothing went wrong that week or that year or that month or leading up to that, and be the champion at any of those shows, they're all prestigious. And we kind of live in a what have you done for me lately? I think whoever wins Fort Worth, that's going to be a big deal. And then when whoever wins San Antonio, that's the next big deal. And then so forth in Houston. So no doubt. And they all take a lot of work. And just to touch on what Dwight was saying about the work, when we slick sheared our calves, we still brought them up in the barn every day. They got washed, they got blown, they got sheen, they got mane and tail, they got set up, they got weighed, they got exercised. Even though we sheared the hair off of them, that hide and hair, you think it's tough to get one looking good in the hair. That hide and hair is tough to get looking right. And so we still worked it. We blew it and brushed it and stuff. So, it takes a lot of work to get them there. But definitely, I think all of them prestigious. Definitely Fort Worth steps out a little bit more because of the hair. But I think they're all prestigious.
Awesome. Hey, Corey, we had a question come in from Peyton Muth. What was that? Do you see that?
Yep, pops up here. Is there a so-called trend in the industry that's moving in that could potentially cause problems within the industry?
Is there a so-called trend that the industry is moving in? Cattle. That's a good question and a loaded question. I don't know who wants to answer that one.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, it's just somebody asked. I mean, do you see something trend wise? I guess that's how I look at it. Do you see a trend among the industry that you think maybe that could potentially take us down the wrong road?
I'll just touch on that one. For me personally, I think we've downsized the cattle, but if you look at it, we've made them longer, they're heavier. I think we're teeter-totting with the frame probably a little bit, in my opinion, and the rate of gain. Used to, when you opened up an Ag Book 101, they were supposed to gain 3 pounds a day, and that's what they're supposed to do in the feed yard. I think the rate of gain in some of these show cattle now is, especially in the steer deal, we've got them kind of slower growing, and maybe we've kind of bred the grow out of them initially. And I think that will come around a little bit because, structure always, plays a part in that. So that would be one of the things that I could see maybe how you could answer that question. I don't know. Do you guys, Dwight, you see anything?
No, that was something about that, and the most things that I see that, like you said again, we've tried to make those things just as wide based and have more muscle and And when we do that, and we also downsize them when we do that. And so, yeah, we have a lot of what we call holdovers that are kind of being showed. And so, I don't know if that growth in performance, we've got to get back of getting that in there and still not making those cattle where they're too big and not acceptable. So if keeping structure, that structural integrity, and that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing out there in cattle that we get here, or cattle that we're trying to raise, is trying to keep it where it's where they're good in terms of their structure, but also they're not going to be. It costs a lot of money to have holdovers, and so just getting those things where they got some growability to them and get on perform and go.
Gotcha. Well, that's good stuff. I don't know. It's been fun. It's been fun to have you guys on here, and we talked about it early on. There's no way to capture Texas in an hour show, and I mean, I know me personally, I could go on for another hour listening to you guys kind of break it down, or maybe we should have tackled it twice or something. I don't know, but hopefully outside of Texas, you kind of get a little bit of what goes on down there, and from a county level to a major show level. But man, guys, it's been a pleasure of mine to have both of you on tonight.
Man, thank you. We've enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, just to say, Texas we think it's really unique. It is down here. We know some other states are the same, but just the opportunity that it gives the young people here to be able to participate in these shows is just unbelievable. So hats off to all those shows, all those major shows and county shows that's really getting out there performing for you.
Right.
And Brad, I got one thing for you and Corey there. I did look, and I want to say, Shane, I thoroughly enjoyed you and Blake and Gerald judging that steer show up in Denver. I got to watch that deal and listen to the comments on there. And I said, I'm going to call Brett and tell him, I'll be talking about his son and my grandson. My grandson built like Poppy. He's kind of built like me. But hey, we still like to play ball. We still shoot basketball. We can shoot now.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, I still laugh when I looked out on the court. Brandon and I are sitting side by side, and those two boys out there, they needed a football helmet. They didn't need a basketball. So, it was so good. But hey, I'm going to keep you guys on.
Right. I'm not going to raise Shane though. Okay.
So what I do want to do, Corey, I do think this is only fair that we haven't got it out of Shane yet. Surely he's going to tackle the Show Steer Junior National deal this summer. But I think if he does, I think we've got to have a foot race of some sort, just to kind of lay this deal to bed. And I don't know. I think we need to do it at the Junior Nationals.
Some junior national for sure, and here's my challenge. I want to challenge Gerald and Blake, and they can call the shot. If they say where it is, I will be there, and I will race those two. And if we want to make a little fundraiser out of it, I know Gerald, he's a prankster, and he likes to always have fundraising out of everything. So any of the junior nationals, I don't care if it's the Key Junior or the Maines or the Herefords or wherever, or the steers, or whatever we got to do. That's my challenge to those two guys. They name the place and the time, I will be there, and we'll just have a race and we'll settle this one. And maybe I can put my oldest boy, maybe he'll be quiet now if I could show him I've still got a little speed left in me.
Pops has got wheels, he says. Okay. Hey, I'm going to keep both of you on here real quick. We always close the show out. We have always tried to close the show out with what we deemed as Cattlemen for Christ. Last week, I had a text message come in from Matt Scasta. I've had several text messages since then about how cool that was, that somebody within our industry like Matt is not afraid to share his faith. I know you two men are somebody of faith as well. But tonight, Dwight, it's going to come from Brandon. Brandon sends me something today, and for those of you listening still, hopefully you're still with us. If there's somebody out there that wants to share a little message with Corey and I, text one of us. I don't mind it. I love doing it. But if there's somebody out there that wants me to do this, or you have something you'd like us to share, text us. This week's come from Brandon Callis, and he writes, what is being competitive? How does it fit in the Christian walk? Is it supposed to be part of the walk? Compete for God above all else. He wants our best at all times, our best effort, best mind, and the best trust in him to lead us. Learning to trust in a manner that supersedes self-ambition. Trust in him to know that he is always with us, to look for him in all that we do. We will only see what a person wants us to sometimes. The heart is a hard thing to see. It's up to us to make sure we put out for the world to see that we're genuine, honest, in an effort that is reflection of God's work in us. Competitive greatness comes from your mindset. I'm going to post this whole thing tomorrow on the Cattle Drive as a post that you can read. He said, the thing I've started to learn after 38 years, it's not earned all the time, but the journey and the process is what matters. Try to be consistently a good Christian with pure thoughts. And it's the hardest thing in the world to do, but it's our job and we should strive to do it. Colossians chapter 3, 1 Colossians 9:24-27. That was Brandon's message to me. That's my message to you. And I'll post this whole thing tomorrow on the Cattle Drive Live Facebook page with a picture of Brandon so you can see that. And Dwight, such a good job you have done with Brandon. I don't know how. I'm gonna. It's probably his mama.
It is.
But I'm gonna give you a little bit of the credit.
It is. No, we're big about faith here, and that if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have anything, nothing that we have, and so we're big about that. So I often tell those kids the same thing, and I didn't. Well, sometimes you don't know what your kids have in them, Brett, until you think you did a good job. And I always told my wife, and we talk about that once they get out, and that's all we can hope for, and all we can pray for is they kept God first in their life. So Mama did a good job. She did a
Mama
good job.
did a good job, and
Yeah,
so did Daddy. So, but no, guys, thank you for being a part of Cattle Drive Live tonight. Thanks for sharing with us.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all. Yep, our pleasure.
Take care, guys.